Let's take a minute to talk about tribes. Now, I know that most people listening to this probably don't remember tribes, and if you do, it's for Tribes Ascend, the ill-fated high-res game that died because it wasn't Smite. And if you knew anything about high-res, it was that they pretty much dropped all their properties once Smite started being successful. Tribes was a very interesting series because it didn't necessarily revolve around a lot of the traditional FPS mechanics. You know, snap aiming with a lot of hit-scan weapons and traditional movement. Instead, it involved a lot of flying, a lot of utilizing jetpacks and terrain to do something called skiing. Now, what skiing was essentially finding your way to a high mountain or a slope and skiing your way down it and then using some other slope to jump across the map, hopefully landing somewhere near the enemy base, like you were using yourself like a human lawn dart. Now, the thing about skiing that's important to what we're talking about today, because we're talking about speed flying and it being gone, skiing was not originally intended to be the way that you got around in Tribes. Originally, it had a lot more traditional movement mechanics, but when they were making the game, they found this particular little movement glitch where you accidentally slid down mountains and realized that's a lot more fun than whatever it was they were doing before. Now, this is hardly the only movement system that started out as a glitch, but eventually became just the way you moved in a game, but it is one to me that sticks out most completely, because, Tribes was entirely designed around skiing, because skiing was just that fun. And that brings us to what I want to talk about today, and that is the removal of speed flying from Zenith. Now, this really honestly saddens me. I typically don't care all that much when a game takes a direction or makes a minute change to mechanics. I'm generally there for it, not particularly picky about what does or doesn't end up making its way into a game, but this time I feel a little differently. This time I feel that speed flying was so key to why Zenith was fun that I think its removal genuinely harms the game. While I'm sure most of you that are here know what speed flying is, for those of you that didn't get in while it was a mechanic, it is generally sort of moving your arms in a kind of almost swimming motion to gain a lot more speed than was originally intended for you to be able to get in Zenith while flying using the more advanced flight modes. And to be honest, it was a pretty big reason why I played Zenith for as long as I did. I advertised this game to many of my friends based off of just how fun and deep and interesting of flight mechanics it had, because speed flying wasn't just an exploit, it was its own set of unintentional systems that you had to learn how to use. You had to learn how to angle your hands and the correct speed to move your arms. You had to learn how to manage your stamina and appropriately fly. It was a real skill, and there was a tremendous joy in both learning and mastering it. But now all of that is gone. Speed flying was officially removed in the most recent patch, and I don't want to dog the most recent patch too much because it did add a lot of good, but the removal of speed flying genuinely, to me at least, says that the developers missed a huge opportunity, because to me, speed flying and Zenith were the same game. If you remove speed flying, Zenith is significantly less remarkable. I have less reason to go back and replay it, less reason to tell my friends they need to get in on this experience, which was, with speed flying, absolutely unmissable. And now, don't get me wrong, Zenith is still a fun and entertaining game. The combat is still enjoyable, the, general MMO and social aspects, they're all still there, but with speed flying, I can't help but feel that my enthusiasm for it is just significantly reduced. Because it offered something that no other VR game did. No other VR game had a flight system as interesting as what was accidentally introduced with Speedflying. Now, I know the reasons you would get rid of this. You want to add more complex puzzle platforming mechanics, and I get that. But I would argue that you could have added complex puzzle platforming mechanics that utilize speed flying instead of getting rid of it. I really think this is something that the game should have lent into and taught people how to do rather than getting rid of it. Or if you really, really want to design traditional puzzle platforming segments for raids and dungeons as have been recently introduced, then just disable the glitch or the system as I would have implemented it in those particular instanced areas. Or, you could even limit it in areas of the overworld where you want more specific regimented challenges. I really can't express how sad I am to see this particular mechanic go, and how much I hope that I'm not alone in, getting my voice out there and saying that I want it back. I absolutely want this to be reintroduced. I want this to be a thing. And, maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't, but at least I can put my, little YouTube video up there and say, officially, I want this thing back. The game is worse without it. And really, that's all I've got to say. Boon out.